cultural, economic, and general welfare of the city through the preservation and protection of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of local historic, architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in the city, through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts, and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. I would like to take this opportunity to ask the other members of the Historic Preservation Commission to introduce themselves, and on this evening, I would like to start from my right and the audience left.
Dallas Hanbury.
Carol King.
James Long.
And I'm Richard Bailey, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the chairperson of this commission. And while we're introducing ourselves, I'd like to just ask on my left, Ms. Paula Wade, who works with us so diligently once a month, and Mrs. Christy Anderson to my right, who diligently help us in every way possible. To our other commissioners here, you have a copy of the minutes of our previous meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of those minutes.
Dr. Bailey, you can't vote on that yet.
Oh, okay.
We need 5 people.
Right, so we have to wait,
You have to wait.
and that will only be 35 seconds.
Yep, because he's right there.
All right.
I'm sorry, let's say 2 minutes. We give him a chance to catch his breath. We have another commissioner who has just arrived, and we would like for him, he's sitting to my left, to introduce himself.
Attorney Brian Mann.
Okay, and for all of our guests, before we go any further, we'd just like to ensure that everyone speaks directly into the microphone to enhance and to make certain that we hear every word and that the recording is clear. And now we will get back to the adoption of the minutes of the May meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption.
Move to adopt. Second.
Okay, I'd just like to make one point. If you look on the second line of the minutes of the May 12 meetings, you will see that we met at the Loeb Center, Old Alabama Town, and we just want to make a correction there. Does everybody see that? Does everybody see that? Mm-hmm. The second line?
I got it, Dr. Bailey.
Okay, very good. All right, that being taken care of, is there any other unreadness, any other observation anyone would like to make? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Thank you very much, motion carried. As we continue with our proceedings here this afternoon, with our agenda, we begin with our committee reports. And we're going to ask for our first committee report, the revamping of the historic sign program, Carol King and Dr. Dallas Hanbury. Give us an update.
I think everybody received in their packet, except me, a redo of the corrections and asked for input, as well as Christy did a great job of laying it out into a brochure for handout form.
Okay.
I think what we had talked about was that we would do it every 6 months, so the application deadlines will be March the 1st, and so September the 1st will be the next one that we're looking at for the awards to be awarded in December, right? That was the plan. So I think that will be our marketing for the next 2 months, is to get this out into the neighborhoods and the feedback from what they have to say. How many applications do you have right now that are actually ready to go?
I have told people that we did not have a program, so I've not accepted any.
So you don't have anything? Okay.
No, but I've got a call last week asking, no, was it last week? Within the last couple of weeks, someone wanting to replace a sign,
Right.
which is what prompted me to, this is a revamp of a brochure we had about the signs, about adding the how do I apply for a sign, with the note that replacement signs will also be subject to review and not just handed out.
Because that's probably what we're going to run up against, a lot of replacements. So, that's all I've got, really. We'll just see next time. I think if we can get some stuff out into the neighborhoods, we may have some comments back
Okay.
on it.
All
So.
right. And so far, you haven't gotten any? Okay, all right.
It really looks good the sign really looks good in print, like this.
Yeah, and the person who wanted a replacement sign said she liked the old sign, and I said, well, you know, Landmarks uses the same thing. She's like, well, I like Landmarks too. I said, but we're not Landmarks. You know, that's that's the problem.
Yeah, I think when you first see, you know, I want to see a real one. I mean, I really want to see
And I was thinking about seeing if they could do
a mock.
a mock-up where it just maybe, since we'll have to replace the restoration of the month sign,
Oh, yeah.
is, you know, see if they can do one that just says restoration of the month instead of the
That's a good idea.
neighborhood, and that would give us one
The
we
colors.
could use and also be able to see how it's going to look.
How it really does look. Because it's going to have, it does come with supposedly a lot of color properties, UVA, UVB, a lot of protection, and it's improved a lot now since, you know, the other components of the other sign. So I figure these will hold their color a little bit better, but it's going to fade nicely too, I think. So, okay.
Dr. Hensbury, you have any comments you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. Question, comments from our other commissioners?
No.
Okay, so everyone has had an opportunity to look at the sign suggestions that we have
Christy,
before us.
will you send me the PDF or whatever on that brochure so I can forward it out? You think that's a way to do it?
We can certainly do that once we get the price, because
Yep,
that is
yep.
in here as an XX.
Yeah, I saw the little questions, yeah, when we get the drop dead price.
So, yeah, I can do that. I think I need
Or
to.
we actually could put, yeah, it's okay. I was gonna say we could put it on the application, but that's good.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Well, we'll have it on the application as well, but I think we need to let folks know on this.
On that.
And I don't know, it would be nice if we finalize these, if we could have, I know the building department was able to do some nice brochures by kind of laying out what they had and then handing it off to people who actually do printing and graphic design to kind of clean it up. The folks who did our T-shirts and bags did their brochures and kind of cleaned up images and colors, and our money is rapidly evaporating out of our budget, so I don't know if we'll be able to do something like that, but it would be nice
Yeah.
if we could, for this first push, to have something,
That's something really nice.
because these are, as they're done, mailable.
Yeah.
okay. Let me just, Commissioner? Okay, let me just ask our other two commissioners, have you received any kind of feedback from anyone in the city regarding our signs? Any kind of feedback or questions?
I have not.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, you have not heard anything? Okay. All right. Well, we just want to say thank you to Ms. Carol King and Dr. Hansberry for this wonderful sign pamphlet that you've given out to us. It's really attractive. Now, will this be the final coloration?
What,
Well, that's what Christy was talking about. It'd be nice to be able to,
Yeah, the original copy that I have, the colors are lighter.
Sure, take this one.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if it's like really
thank you.
screen printed, it would be. Not that one.
Now, Chris, let me just ask you this question. In addition to our website, where else can a person pick up a copy of this for those persons who might not visit the website, or where else can a person find copies of these? We'll be able to find copies of these.
In our office, that's going to be the source of it. We have made copies of these and the brochure that we have on what it means to live in a historic district, because like Cloverdale will do newcomers bags, and they'll include these materials when if they're still doing that, or they were doing that, where they leave. That was part of the welcome packet to the neighborhood that they would distribute, and we provided those to them.
And maybe when we get a final PDF, we could ask them to put it on their websites too.
Yeah, most of the
Each of the
neighborhoods
historic
link to
Sure.
us as well. And we were hoping that we might be able to do a mailing to all the property owners.
Okay. Do we have sufficient funds to have some of these printed and have on the front desk here and maybe at the train station with the Chamber of Commerce? Do we have enough funds for that?
I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure how useful it would be to have it at City Hall, because paring it down to the designated properties, I think we're going to be better off targeting the owners than having them randomly available.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other question, comment? Thank you so very much. Education outreach.
This is just kind of a question of kind of education outreach do y'all want to do? I mean, we talked about, I think there, you had said previously that yes, you wanted to do another preservation leadership program. We have put in a budget request for that. I don't know if we're going to get it. The first year we did it with minimal city money, and I got sponsorships. So we may have to go that route of seeing what shakes loose out of, we were sponsored by, I think we had 4 corporate sponsors, and we got funds from all but one of the neighborhoods, and that neighborhood said they were going to give us money, and they just never did.
AHC is going to do their grant program again
Yeah.
in August. And although we had asked about educational and outreach funding, and we're told no, they funded a lot of educational and outreach programs
Got it.
when the money came out. So that's something once they announce it to kind of watch for too.
Yeah, because that was only, I mean, to do it the way we did, the space was donated. That covered some of the food costs for the graduation and awards reception. Everybody got a t-shirt and a bag and a binder of materials. Our final outlay, including the reception and the barbecue, was about $2,500. And when we did it the first time, about $1,800 of that was paid for through sponsorships. And then we had another several hundred in registration fees. and I can't do math that quickly in my head. I mean, it was $25 a piece, and we had 30 people. So we may have to get a little creative, but we'll see.
Comments, question, education outreach.
Well, as you know, I sent an email out about potential funding through the federal COVID money. I know it's maybe difficult to do that with all the things that you're doing, but as I understand it as well, wouldn't the Alabama Historic Commission is an automatic grantee under that program, and that's why they may be opening up more grant funds later on in the year that maybe we may be able to tap into for additional funding source.
Yeah, they usually advertise or, you know, promote it as being bricks and mortar with some stipulations, and that's why we had asked, you know, for survey work or for this, that, and the other, and they said, their response was, no, it's bricks and mortar. But then when the list came out, there was a lot of, and some, you know, local city and county board training and some stuff like that had been funded too. So it's kind of like, and it's a max of $20,000. I don't know exactly, but I think that I saw they were getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 900,000. So.
And another piece of that financial puzzle is what I was talking to our guests in the audience about, is that for years and years and years, as far back as 1985, there have been efforts to make Montgomery a certified local government, because the Alabama Historical Commission has to give 10% of their federal appropriation to projects and programs of certified local governments. And most years they are looking for someone to take that money because there's just not a whole lot going on. And we just can't get it done.
Yeah. So we're not eligible for
We're not eligible for that.
For that particular funding.
Right.
Because we're not a CLG. And we're right there, aren't we? All the hoops.
Well, I hope so. I'd gone through it with the previous CLG coordinator and gave her copies of all of our ordinances to review. I asked the new person if we were going to be back at square one. She said she didn't know, and then I haven't heard from her. We have some changes we have to make to our code to bring it into line with the state enabling legislation, and to add some definition to it to make the enforcement side work a little better. And it goes nowhere. It had started back up again last spring. Mayor Strange stopped it in June and said he didn't want to do anything before the election. Mayor Reed's office asked about it in February because someone wants to do possibly a tax credit project on a building that's not currently historic, and then COVID hit. So, I mean, that was I was asked for information on the CLG program not too long before that. So it hasn't gone anywhere since 1985.
Okay, anything else? Do we hear from any of the other commissioners any kind of ideas you might have for some future educational programming or possible source of funding that we have not mentioned here this afternoon?
Well,
No.
I'm working on a guide on Windows, more for people who are thinking they want to replace their Windows and trying to discourage them from doing so. I need some graphics to kind of finish that up, but then I left you all a copy of an article that was in Old House Journal that I got yesterday, that shows the chart about how long it takes for your new Windows to pay for themselves through efficiency and cost savings, and the warranty on a window is about 20 years, because, you know, once that seal fails, you lose your insulating gas between those layers. And in the best case scenario, you'll recoup your cost of replacing your windows in about 34 years, which means you'll be on your second replacement window by then. It's just kind of an interesting, you know, put it into perspective about what a storm window can do for you and how much money it can save you, and how quickly it can pay for itself versus a wholesale window replacement. And I started down that road because I had an argument with a window salesman about a month or so ago who was fussing that we weren't giving our residents options, and new wood's not like old wood. I said, I agree, and we just assume that they not replace their windows, that they repair them, paint them, and put a storm window over them. So, I mean, it is called historic preservation for a reason. Mm-hmm. So I'm going down that rabbit hole.
Anybody has a question for Christy? Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. Other business, First Presbyterian, Landmarks Foundation, or Montgomery County Historical Society?
I spoke with a developer last week who was actually calling me. He'd already spoken with Bob Gamble. He was calling about Grove Court, trying to put together financing for Grove Court Apartments. And apparently in Bob's conversation with him, he mentioned First Presbyterian, and he will be in town Thursday. And I believe, if it hasn't been completely set, I think it has though, that Pat Clark from Montgomery County Historical, Collier, Neely at Landmarks, Scott Williams, who's been the architect representing First Baptist, are going to give this guy a tour of First Presbyterian and see what he thinks. He had sent Pat a number of kind of project cost breakdowns that they have done and what they've been able to leverage here and there. He told me on the phone that, you know, sometimes you just find this building and you love it, and it might take 30 years to make the numbers work, but you just keep at it. So he's done tax credit projects before, so fingers are crossed that he might be able to work some magic on one or both of those properties.
Okay, Carol, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, thank you, sir.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is Landmark still intending to buy the property?
I'm sorry?
Is Landmark going to buy the property? Is that still the plan?
I have no idea where those negotiations are.
I don't think they've been successful raising any money that it comes to a realistic shot of buying it, have they?
I don't know. The last I heard, they were discussing another option. First Baptist continues to delay the request to demolish. It is not on the June ARB agenda. I don't know.
Well, it's a little difficult to know anything that's going on right now when nobody can gather in public and everything, you know, things may be a little open, but they're not a lot open. So I don't. Old Alabama Town has reopened, haven't they, to some extent?
We opened Thursday.
That's completely opened.
Well, we're 3-day a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we'll do that for a couple of weeks and see what happens in the world.
Okay.
And then we'll go to a Tuesday, Saturday week.
All right, okay. Is the Montgomery County Archives completely open?
We're not open at all.
Oh, okay.
They're installing glass partitions in all the offices, and we have not gotten ours yet.
Okay.
I was wondering why you're not open. I've tried to go down there
Well, you know,
several times.
you can always call the probate judge's office and ask what's going on. I mean, I'm sure they'd always be willing to discuss
I tried to sign up for your remote access, and I was told my computers were incompatible.
What,
'cause
did you call anybody at the office?
Yeah, 'cause I have Mac, so I can't use your software.
Well, that isn't my department. It's really not.
But I was surprised they're still closed. That's important, to be able to access the records.
I'm guessing that's because we've got access to it, and you have to use a Microsoft browser with some special ActiveX something or other turned on to be able to read the documents.
I mean, the staff's very helpful. You can give them a debit or credit card, and they'll provide you with a copy of anything you need very quickly.
We will facilitate business.
I was wondering they ought to waive the fee during the COVID since they're closed.
I'm sure you could schedule a meeting with the judge to hear what he has to say about that.
Well, there's an extra $2 fee per transaction just for the convenience, but.
I think you're overestimating my place in the pecking order.
I thought you ran the basement.
Do you
Just because I
do
wear
y'all
a
have
tie, that's all it is.
right? Do y'all have a timetable when you might reopen? Nothing within sight.
So what they're doing, I think this week they started on the tags and licensing division on the second floor, and then what I hear in the next week or two, they're going to come start on ours. They just, I think that there's been an increased demand for that product, and,
The plexi installation.
Okay, all right. Well, you'll keep us posted.
I will.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, but let me plug our website. You can always reach us on the web.
That's right.
We have over 2,000 scanned images, all our finding aids, links to other websites that you may find useful in your research. Just Google Montgomery County Archives.
I'm certain everybody heard that. They can still access you on the web.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a really good website. I'm not going to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It is a nice website.
Thank you so much. We have one person in the audience, and ma'am, did you want to address us, or I don't want to overlook you.
I just came to observe and just see what you're.
If you want to come to the microphone, you don't have to. I just don't want to overlook you.
No, no, thank you so much.
You're fine. You're fine.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
I get the feeling there should have been a item B under other business.
Oh, for the resolution?
That would be this resolution.
There would have been an item B had it come up before the agenda was sent out.
All right.
Before you
Dr.
look at
Bailey, when they disseminated the materials for tonight's meeting, Christie, there was a resolution following up on a suggestion I made at the previous month's meeting, which was to beg the city council to replenish our numbers. When it takes every single one of us to be here to conduct business, we have a problem. We need more people.
Yes.
And I think Christie, or whoever wrote this, I assume Christie, did a fine job. And if you're comfortable signing it, I sure would like to make a motion that we accept this resolution on behalf of the HPC and ask you to present it to the city. And I so move.
Just one second. I'll open the floor for a motion. Is everybody clear on what we're dealing with right now?
Mm-hmm.
What's under discussion? Is everybody clear on that?
And just in case you're wondering where the language came from, the first whereas is what we had in our Preservation Month resolution that we'd done the last several years, just basically saying what the purpose of this body is. Mm-hmm. The second whereas is from Chapter 15, Section 3 of the City Code that specifies what the composition and qualifications of this body are. The next two whereases I added, obviously, to highlight that we do not have 9 members in this body right now, and that a quorum is 5. And then copied, the next two whereases are how the appointment process takes place. And then the way it's written, it's very specific in the subsection saying how the process works, because the feedback I had gotten from a councilman said that he had submitted a name and it wasn't moving forward out of the mayor's office, and that he thought the mayor wanted to make the appointment. Well, the way it's spelled out in the code is that the seats are designated by district. Councilmen are supposed to make a recommendation to the mayor, and the mayor makes the selection. I don't think they've ever submitted 3 names since I've been here. It's just been kind of one and done. So I'm hoping that putting this language right in front of them, they will see what they need to do and what they can do, and hopefully will do. So that's where I didn't. The only things I made up were the whereas. The commission is currently comprised of 5 members with 4 vacancies, and a quorum is 5 members. Everything else was pulled from other places.
Okay. Is everybody on the same page with this? Christie and Commissioner Mann, I just have one question I'd like to pose. Do we need to put a date on here on the reverse side? Do we need a date that
The approved line on the back side will be the date, and then there's a signature line.
Okay.
So that's where the date would be.
All right, that's good enough.
I have an additional suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you can speak into the microphone a little bit.
I have an additional suggestion, just to make it clear so they don't have to look it up, and that is to identify the districts where appointments are needed. You talk about them, but you don't specifically.
I think we can do that in a memo.
In a memo, yeah.
Because I have contacted each of those council persons to notify them that there is a vacancy on this board in their district. Those 4 people should know who they are, but we can do that with a cover memo, just outlining which districts have vacancies. Because I intend to send a copy of this to every council member in the mayor's office and the clerk's office.
And they meet next Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Now, let me
I'll
just,
be here.
okay, let me ask this question. Do we need to await that change, or can we go in and have this signed this afternoon?
I don't think we should change the resolution.
Okay, good enough.
I think we can address that with the cover memo
Sure.
that explains why they're getting the resolution, saying that we have vacancies in districts. I think it's 3, 4, 5, and 6, actually. Yeah,
Might get more attention that way, too.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Is everybody on the same page in terms of what we're trying to effect here?
Along with, they do not have to live in the particular council district.
All right, okay.
That's
Right.
a resolution.
Okay, the chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
So move.
Unreadiness. All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands.
Second, Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
and we need a second.
I'm sorry. Second.
A second.
Okay. Carol King, second.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much, and we really appreciate the fact that this was done so well, and we didn't have very little lag time. Thank you so much. Is there anything else we need to discuss this afternoon? Anything else?
I want to apologize for my tardiness. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Christie, could you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the budget? I mean, have y'all been asked to?
We've been asked to cut 10% this year and 10% from this year's request from next year. Thankfully, though, and this is why I'm not sure how it's going to shake out, what may help us is that we had a request this year for $24,000 that was granted to record historic designations with the deeds. Because initial conversations with the previous assistant probate administrator, I don't know what his position was, made it sound like we were going to have to pay recording fees and indexing fees for 2,500 properties. So, my fuzzy math came up with a number and we got it. Apparently, though, what we're going to be able to do is record the designation ordinance and then just index the addresses. So it's going to be a lot cheaper to do it that way. Is that we're in the process of finishing up going through every property to get an instrument number for every piece of property we want indexed, to have that done. All that to say is that that was a one-time appropriation that won't appear in next year's budget request because we're going to get it done. And hopefully cutting that out will mean we get to preserve some of the funding we had asked for education and awards. And I would also suggest, if we think about awards next year, we couldn't have had an awards program with COVID this year, that we may want the next year's awards to cover 2 years of projects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
And we might also, when we put together some sort of a promotional or a communication with the neighborhoods, about about the sign, the new sign process, we might mention that too, that, it's recorded on their deeds at this point.
Well, it's not yet, but we're getting close.
Yeah.
There were a number of things that the addresses that we had didn't match anything in the county records, so it's going back to maps and looking for parcel numbers and trying to figure out what those are and making those corrections and finding those.
I don't see how that would help you. You're going to need lot and block and subdivision and plat book and page, I would think.
Well, no, I mean, we are attaching it to a deed. So they're going to do it by instrument number, that the things that were designated in Old Cloverdale, we're going to record Old Cloverdale's designation ordinance. We'll give them a list of addresses that have those instrument numbers. They're going to attach it to that instrument number. So when you do a chain of title search,
Oh, I understand. You're going to,
it's going to pop
It's going to be
up.
outside the chain of title. It's going to be as a reference on the computer index. So if you were looking at it like in books, like back in the day, you'd never find it.
No.
But being that it's computerized, there'll be a
Now that
reference.
everything is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
I
indexed
still
with
think
the property.
old school by the books.
Well, that's
It
how
won't
we
be in your
record it by, but
abstract.
that's still, all the computer does is you can sort by name, but that's essentially how we still do it. I mean, really. So don't give up thinking book and page, because that's how it's going to be to the end of time.
It will be outside the chain of title.
Anything else? Does anyone have an event you'd like to bring out to our attention?
Old Cloverdale Association will resume its monthly meetings Monday, 6 o'clock, Cloverdale Park. Bring a chair and stay away from anyone outside of your family. We'll have a PA system, weather permitting. Who knows how long this would have gone on. We missed our March, April, May meeting, and the mayor of Old Cloverdale made a decision that we could meet in the park. So we will be outside at our normal meeting time, the third Monday of the month. Cloverdale Park, where we normally have our Christmas tree lighting. Our liquor store we were opposed to has found a way to reapply for their license that was denied them, so we have a reason to meet. And I will present the sign program to them, and I was trying to think, anyway.
6 o'clock.
People that are concerned, you can stay home. If you're willing to come out, come out.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on Monday the 15th.
Okay. Anyone else has an event?
I do have an announcement. I don't think I brought it up before. So over a year ago now, the Montgomery County Archives, along with Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Delta State University, the Columbus Lowndes Public Library, and the Natchez Historical Foundation applied for $342,000 in grant funds from the National Archives to digitize pre-Civil War legal records mentioning enslaved people by name. That was fully funded. The project is called the Lantern Project in reference to when enslaved people were sold down the river. It was literally called being sold down the river into darkness. And so the idea is that, you know, this will act as a lantern and reveal these people in the historical record. So over the next 3 years, we're going to go through our collections and start scanning and digitizing, and it will be available online as the Lantern Project.
In about 3 years.
Yes. So the first year obviously is going to be scanning and transcribing, and then we'll just continue that over the next couple of years. And then towards the end, we'll obviously do a lot of publicity in terms of conferences and so on and so forth.
Well, that'd be great. We'd like to work with you, and you know, we've got some leads that you might
Yeah.
get places quicker. Sometimes.
We
You
well,
got it,
so
but we know
what
you got it.
what we've been doing in past years before we even applied for this grant is, as county archivist, I would go through our estate files for an hour or two every day, looking for names of enslaved people. And even before we applied for this grant, we located over 5,000 individuals. However, the 1860 census, I think, lists Montgomery County's enslaved population at 23 or 24,000. So we've got a ways to go, but we have a base to work from already. And if you count in-kind contributions, this grant is over $680,000.
Outstanding. That's really good.
It really is. It really is. Now, let me ask you this. Will your material have any information on what we call free blacks during that same time period, or just enslaved
So we're
persons?
really targeting enslaved people because for those of you that don't know, local government records are unbelievable. If you want to know what slavery looks like in your community, go down to the courthouse because it's in real property records, it's in the deed books, it's in the mortgages, it's in the wills. It is absolutely endless how much enslaved information.
And it's not in the census. I mean, names and stuff.
No, the
you know.
1850 and 1860 census
are
contained
just
a
numbers.
section called the slave schedules, and they would record how many enslaved people each person owned, and, as well as their age and some other information, and would only rarely name enslaved people, particularly if they were over 100 years old. But other than that, the best source of enslaved people's names are local government records, particularly estate files.
And since it's handwritten, it's extremely tedious.
We're going to transcribe, so as we get a body of digitized materials, if anybody's looking for
Volunteer work.
because it is very
Really
tedious.
hard
No,
to
it's
do.
really tedious, but it's really, I mean, it's really, really vital work. So,
There's so much information in it.
well, I mean, you know, consider the fact that you're helping people connect with family members that were previously lost to history. That 1865 used to be a barrier. And then we realized, wait a minute, we can go to these local legal records, and people are finding relations before the end of the war now.
That is very good, especially the transcribing part.
Yes, you know that.
I look forward to it.
Anyone else has something you want to bring to our attention? Again, we'd like to thank Ms. Paula Wade and Ms. Christy Anderson for taking time from their schedules to come and be with us again on the second Tuesday of the month. That being said, this meeting is hereby adjourned.